we're just trying to get through tomorrow.
Should fans expect to see Mayfield and Beckham at all?
I hadn't decided.
What about the whole preseason in general? How much do you think the starting offense needs to play together, or do they get enough work in practice where that's secondary is how much work to get in the preseason?
Well, I think they definitely need to play together, and we'll monitor that as it goes along from the standpoint of their timing and stuff like that. I mean, our practices are pretty physical from that standpoint. So, we'll see. We'll monitor that, the relationship the receivers and the quarterback have together, their timing, stuff like that. So a lot of things factor into those questions, and I'm not trying to dismiss it. Some of it has to factor into who's available.
Will kickers alternate kicks or alternate games?
We haven't decided that yet.
The fact that you're practicing.
I'm not going to talk about what we're going to do in playing time
The fact that
yet.
you're practicing against the Colts though next week, will that be a factor?
That definitely factors into it. And you hit the nail on the head. Because, we expect to have some physical, get better type practices with the Colts. And I'm pretty sure Frank wants the same thing. So, you've got to factor in all those things. And, ultimately you want to get your guys, in September, you want to get them there healthy. But there's a fine line between getting them there healthy and getting them there battle-hardened, battle-tested for what's going to happen. Because, from this moment on, they're never going to feel perfect until February. So, we got to get used to playing like that.
How many hats do you think Freddie has?
He has at least 6 that have an elf on them, I think. So I'm not sure.
If you're not wearing orange and brown.
Yeah, so he's always wearing orange and brown.
Yeah, because Dorsey, they only gave him that one sweatshirt, I think.
You know what I like I'm seeing a lot of media guys on Twitter these days saying, don't play these guys at all in the preseason. Don't play them at all. I'm like, when did we get to that point? Was it wrong all those years when they played Kosar and whoever else, Tom Brady, anybody else in the preseason?
I'm trying to think of Kosar with Cleveland if he played most of the exhibition.
I'm not saying they should play whole games. I'm just, Freddie, I think, is aware that fine line he just talked about between showing up healthy on September 9th and being ready to play. We have seen that this team has, 1-19 in season openers?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there?
No,
now,
not
that's
somewhere.
Not all
that's what it is.
because they sat, but there were a lot of times when they had quarterbacks in particular that weren't exactly proven players, and they didn't play them after the second or the first series of the third game of the preseason. They went a whole 3 weeks before they started the season, and they were not very good.
Right, and you talk about the OTAs and all that stuff, if everybody should show up or not because of camaraderie and getting to know each other's moves. Wouldn't you rather, given your choice, wouldn't you rather have the guys in a game in almost NFL conditions at an NFL stadium as opposed to out in Berea in front of a couple thousand fans?
Yeah, now you're gonna face more contact in these games, and I get it. And I think what he was trying to say there is that this this scrimmage that's happening with the Colts next week is complicating it, because they are going to have some physical practices in that game.
So what's complicating?
Well, do you want guys to have a whole quarter of physical football Thursday night, then practices against the Colts that'll be physical, then a game against the Colts that'll be physical? Yeah, so maybe he's just looking at who's really ready, who's not nicked up, and maybe make decisions based on that.
Okay, but the Browns last year were not a good tackling team.
No.
Statistically, they were near the bottom or at the bottom.
Yes, they were.
Wouldn't you think contact in games would maybe help them? Because how else do the Browns how does the front office or coaching staff know if these guys can really tackle or not?
Yeah, and I think we'll probably see, more defensive guys, although it sounds like the defensive line is kind of dealing with injuries right now. But I think we're going to see the linebackers. Schobert and Kirksey were part of that reason why they were not a great tackling team last year. So we'll probably see those guys more in the preseason in the first couple games than we will see some of the offensive players. Do you have to, you could treat Odell-Beckham-Jr. and Baker-Mayfield differently than you might your defensive, your linebackers or your corners.
It's the Jordan rules.
Yeah, and that's not to say that they don't have to practice hard. I think they have been practicing hard. His camp, I think, has been a pretty strenuous camp. You don't see guys, just sitting around. You don't
Right.
see guys messing around that much. I think he's kept pretty true to what he said he was going to do last year.
You've seen a ton of camps over the years. Is there anyone did the Vermeil class when you were in
Yeah.
Philadelphia? Were they
But he was
gung ho all the time?
Oh yeah, and that was just a different time. I mean, now these guys aren't practicing twice a day. They were back then. Now, if they can't practice more than 5 days in a
Right.
row because of the collective bargaining agreement. But when Dick Vermeil came into Philadelphia, he inherited a team that had been terrible for a while, and he was trying to drive guys out that he didn't think were committed enough to be part of the program.
Right.
So those.
And did that work?
Yeah, it did. And
Well, where does a guy like that go? Hopefully, gets picked up by somebody else.
They get picked up by somebody else. But he wanted those guys to be sort of examples to the rest of the team of, these guys aren't hard workers. I know they're not, and now they're gone. So he drove a lot of guys out that way, and it took him 3 years to become a really good team. But he did.
The noise